Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis. I'm with Tarah Taylor, a community organizer in Houston, Texas, and a well-known one. Hey, Tarah, tell me a little bit about yourself before we start getting into the George Floyd issue.
Sure. So I started in criminal justice work in 2014. I got on a caravan to Ferguson with some teachers from TFA. We stayed out there for a couple of days and organized with the community, did some um, organizing work around the DA there, came back, and we started Black Lives Matter Texas. Most of us were from Houston, so it became Black Lives Matter Houston. Ashton Woods took it over. And since then, I've been working with organizations like the ACLU, Texas Organizing Project, and many others to try to stop the police brutality that's going on in our country. And as you can see, 6 years later, we're still dealing with these issues.
Now, I want to put a little positive spin on it. I know earlier on when we started to talk, you said it just seems like things just stay the same. I'm a bit, and I please don't take this as condescending. I'm a bit older, so I can see a whole lot of difference from when I just got to this country to how we are now. And I can see that under Trump, we've regressed some. I don't think we've regressed as much as we think. I think more than anything else, what we've done is we've taken a scab off that was always there. That is my impression. So the only reason I'm telling you this is we need young fighters like you in the game without fear or even feeling that somehow it's not working. Your job, what you're doing is actually working, Tarah. Let me just tell you that it's working, and they want you to stop. But anyhow, going back into what you did on for the rally, tell me a little bit about why, even as you hadn't been attending a whole lot of rallies in this near term, that this one you felt you had to go to.
Yeah, so I quit going to rallies because I became overwhelmed multiple times going to protests and became sad, frustrated. Back in 2017, I was tired of doing this every couple months or so. And I just became extremely emotional and wanted to stop going to the protest.
Explain what that is all about. What emotional about what?
Yeah, so during the Mike Brown protests, I pretty much watched live streams all day long, and I mean all day. And I watched my people get shot with rubber bullets. I watched them get tear gassed. I can still hear the LRAD in my mind. It's traumatizing to not only watch your people be brutalized, but killed over and over and over and over and over and over again. And this was one of those instances where George was murdered. And it's very cut and dry. And it was so egregious. And I became so angry. The first day I was trying to make sure if it was true. The second day I was appalled. The third day I was sad. And the fourth day I was angry. And I made a split-second decision to go to the protests. I was like, I'm going. I knew it was going to be dangerous, and I was okay with that because I was mad and I wanted to tear up some stuff too. I wanted to yell at some cops too. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march until I got tired. So that's what inspired me to go.
Now, I want to dispel something here, Tarah, because only someone like you can actually put some meat to this false narrative, to this false equivalence. A lot of people say, well, hell, in the Black community, people are shooting up each other.
Let me tell you
How
something.
do you answer that? And I need you to answer that, because I am personally, you said you're tired. I find it amazing that I have to answer that. So please do it.
I find it amazing too. And the difference between Black people shooting each other and cops shooting us is the consequence. When Ray Ray and Pookie get into a shootout, somebody's going to jail. But when Chad decides that he wants to kill us in the street on camera in full view, broad daylight, he gets a mandatory 24 hours before he is taken to jail or questioned. And that's if they do it right away. This officer went 3 or 4 days before he was arrested. The officers that shot Breonna have still not been arrested. We do not get the same types of justice. And that's why we're out here. When we kill each other, justice, in a sense, for the victim is served in most cases. In most cases for Black people or people of color in general, when they are brutalized by a police officer, there is no justice. We may get an arrest, but we won't get a conviction. We may get a conviction, but the sentence is not fair. So there are many stages in which this is not helpful to our community. Do people need to go to jail when they shoot people? Absolutely. We just want it to apply fairly to everyone, especially those who are held in high esteem in our society, like police officers.
Now, Tarah, that is something everybody can see. I want to add a little something else to that I try to explain to a whole lot of our listeners, and that is, do also remember that killing, it's not a huge thing, no matter how you see it on TV on Channel 13. You know, people would want you to believe that you're going to certain areas, it's a killing field. First of all, that isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is that the same within the margin of error, Black people who kill Black people is what is white people who kill white people.
Right.
People who live in a vicinity kill each other. That is what
Mm-hmm.
happens. So it's not and what shows up on TV is Black killings. White killings don't make it as often on TV. And when we break it down into a socioeconomic domain, we find that if you compared Appalachia with certain parts of our ghettos, we find
Mm-hmm.
that the criminality, or what we decide to call criminality, are similar. So all these statements, you know, between what you said and what I'm just saying, it gets very difficult having to explain that over and over again, the false narratives that they put out there. So I'm glad to see that you're out there telling the story, that we have a lot of young activists, young community organizers doing the same. Now tell me, I think you had a little issue trying to leave downtown. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that, you know, working for the ACLU, I definitely know my rights. We were corralled into a trap, which we had been trying to avoid all night. And we had done a very good job of trying to outsmart the police. And, you know, by, I guess it was 10 o'clock or so, we did get caught. It was about 40 of us. They separated us from the larger group and basically boxed us in. They basically put us in timeout. We sat there for about 20 minutes or so, at which point they told us that we would be allowed to leave and go, but not before they ID'd us all and took our pictures.
Wait, let me understand this. You didn't get arrested, but you got ID'd, meaning your card, your driver's license.
I'm not exactly sure what the extent of the ID was. I personally came out there and did not want to be identified because I had been taken to jail before for protesting. So I was not going to be ID'd. One, I did not bring my ID with me.
Good.
And two, I did not know what they were going to be doing with the information. And I knew once they said they were going to take our photos, I was absolutely not going for that. And I knew it was a violation of our rights. And I asked on Facebook just to make sure the laws hadn't changed, because it seemed very blatant what they were doing. We were all walking, so there's no reason to stop and frisk anyone. And the picture taking was even more egregious, because I felt at that point, any information that we gave them would be used later on to either grandfather in a conviction or charges. And I was not having that. First of all, I didn't do anything, but I wasn't going to let them pin charges on me either. So once the entire group, which was surprising, got up and allowed themselves to be ID'd, in which way, I don't know, because I refused. I sat down on the curb and waited for them to do what they needed to do with everybody else, and was waiting for them to come to me, which surprisingly they never did. And they seem to have gotten distracted with a meeting with their supervisors. And then at that point, I got up and left.
You just
Um,
walked off.
yeah, I sat there the whole time with a shield covering my face.
Okay, great.
So I could not be identified, and they didn't bother me at all, which is surprising to me.
Did you make them know up front that you knew your rights? So
I did
were
not.
you?
I didn't say a word because I didn't want to provoke them to try to ID me or give them
Mhm.
a reason to lawfully ID me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so tell me, what was your general feelings as to the the success of the success of the civil part of the protest? Because I understand there were you got infiltrated after a while.
Well, first, let me say that I was not at the protest during the day. I didn't get there till 7. I heard that there was multiple arrests and confrontations with police and amongst activists that day. I was not there, though. I didn't make it out until about 7 o'clock. In terms of infiltrators, I've been to many a protest here at home and abroad, as well as in other states. I would not say that there were infiltrators at the protest on Friday. What was happening was another group organized a protest that to me was very organized. Everybody had a role to play. There were skaters, there were taggers, there were people destroying things, which I don't discourage as long as it's a symbol of oppression, like police cars and things like that. But there's always a byproduct of, looting or criminal act, like real criminal activity with protests. There were people that were breaking things just for the hell of it. And when I say breaking things, I mean storefronts, glass. Of course, the taggers are doing their job by tagging anything they can find, whether it be a window or a wall on a business, whatever needs to be done. But, at one point we began to, and we as in the group, not any particular person, began to break the windows of a deli just for no reason. And I think they actually got in and took some things. Um, I do know the organizer of that protest was trying to keep the protest moving because the longer we linger, the more things get broken around the protest. So there's no way for us to control anyone. I have led many protests and disagreed with tactics of others, and there's really just no way to stop them. At the end of the day, nothing has to get torn up if these instances of police brutality and murder don't happen. So it just is what it is. I wouldn't call it infiltration. It just is something that happens when protests are that big and the stakes are that high. People are opportunists, and you just have to keep moving. I mean, I'm not worried about somebody's store. I'm worried about our lives at this point. So at the end of the day, if these stores want to, keep their businesses intact, they need to start talking to the cities about good policing.
That is an interesting concept that you just stated there. I think I said that in a recent. Actually, I think in a recent video that all these people are complicit. Everybody is complicit. If you have a particular sect of your population who also supports you and you allow them to be murdered on the streets, then while you and I may not do something specifically, others may.
That's right. I mean, in organizing, we talk about secondary targets a lot. We have the primary target, which could be, for example, the mayor. If the mayor won't do what we want, then we go after the council members, or we go after his donors, or we go after his voters. And this works similarly. Big box companies like Target, AutoZone, Quick Trip, remember Ferguson when they burned the Quick Trip
Yes.
down? Those companies need to say, we're not going to rebuild in your city anymore if you guys can't get your police department together, because that's what's starting and sparking these looting activities, is the protests that are stemming from police brutality. And we really need their solidarity with that. I'm sure they don't want their stores broken into. We really don't either. But at the end of the day, that's not our problem. I mean, it just is what it is. So if they want
Survival
to
is the
stop it, they need
problem.
to step up too.
Or survival is the issue. Well, look, Tarah, what's next in your near-term future? Are you
So what's next right now? Houston has a protest on Tuesday at 3 o'clock at Discovery Green with the Floyd family. I look forward to that. I look forward for a peaceful rally. I am never going to tell people not to, do what they need to do to get their voices heard. I just want us to do it at the appropriate time. People are bringing their children, let them get those kids out of there, and then we can do what needs to be done. On the policy and organizing front, there are two things that we really need to do. And one is to defund the police departments. That's a long game strategy. We need to move funds away from them, stop them from being given military equipment. We need to take funds away and put that into things that really help our community and really get to the core of why we are sending police officers, whether it's mental health issues or social issues. We need to send social workers and EMTs to some of these calls, and we need to put money into that instead of sending police officers. And the second thing, and the hardest thing, and I think really the core of all of this, is to stop the police unions. I am a union girl, I'm a union member, and I'm a union leader. I lead a union. And let me tell you, the police unions are the problem. They're the ones that set these measures to where you can't talk to police officers within 24 hours of them killing somebody. They are the ones who are representing the police officers and paying for their lawyers in court. They are the ones who are allowing police officers that have multiple infractions, like the officer that killed George Floyd, to continue to serve on the force, or if they get fired, to go to the nearest police department. That needs to stop. And they are the problem. The politicians are scared of them, and we need to figure out how to abolish them, quite frankly.
Now, I want to ask one question because I had another activist talk to me about defunding the police department. How exactly does that work? And how does that work with respect to keeping a community safe?
One, it will make the community safer. And
In other words,
Houston right now
is there policing necessary within the community?
is policing necessary. It depends. Some communities are able to self-police, and they do that in a lot of rural areas. That's how Ahmaud was killed, because they were self-policing. The way that we defund these police departments, it depends on what agency, but right now the city is going over their budget. And the majority of the budget for public safety is obviously spent on police. And we simply need to elect people that will do the work to defund them. We need to elect city council people and mayors who don't see the value in sending police to domestic violence calls, or to send police to an instance where we have someone who has intellectual disabilities, if they are having an episode. We need to send the right types of people. We need to send.
I got you. So my next question then to that, Tara, because what I'm looking for is the practical solutions, which is what you've just given me. In other words, if there's a mental issue, you send in a mental person. Now, what do you send for a security issue? Are you saying defund the police, or do you saying rebrand the police into?
We need to move money. I am saying defund them for sure. They still need to do their public safety work. If there's a security issue, things like that, of course.
My question then is, defunding don't mean zero money for.
No, not at all. I mean, the police have to have
that's what
some
I'm
money.
trying to get at. Okay, good.
But we're not buying drones and semi-automatic weapons and crazy things like that. And that goes for the sheriff's office as well, and constable's office. Okay. Every level.
That is what I wanted to clear up, because what happened a lot of times is when you use the particular words are then used in a narrative to work against you. And that's what I wanted to clear up in what I'm saying. So I got that. Now, look, Tara, you are a bastion of information, and you are an activist, and that I think that we need to keep, that we need to have out there, and not only doing the work, but replicating yourself. Because there's so much that that others need to understand. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for coming on to Politics Done Right. And rest assured, you have backing from your community.
I thank you to all the people of color, and people of color means people of color. That means black, brown, yellow, red, whatever you are. Like, we're all in the struggle right now. I know the focus is on Black lives right now, but all of our lives are in danger, and we have to stick together. All we got is ourselves. So just keep fighting, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Tarah Taylor, community activist, Houston, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.